A couple, just for those who maybe don't know you, aren't familiar, or new to Grace City Church, just a 30-second flyover of who you are, what you do, and kind of how we got connected.
Man, I just feel like the lucky guy that got to walk a amazing site that God's given you guys stewardship over, the first time I was in town, and yesterday got to see it half built. I mean, I don't know how in the heck or in heaven and earth I got to be in that position, but I'm just humbled to be here. I was born in Saigon, Vietnam, almost got left behind before the fall of Saigon, and again, somehow, some way, ended up at the Walt Disney Company for about a decade, incurred some brain damage at Disney that I've taken some lessons learned at the Magic Kingdom and been able to be honored and blessed to somehow use that brain damage incurred to build up God's kingdom. So it's been a real holy roller coaster e-ticket ride.
Yeah. So I know, so Mel, we spent all day yesterday dreaming, planning for what might be next, and so both our brains are kind of fried from that. We went home and drooled into our salad and ate cookies and went to bed. And so I told Mel, I said, why don't we just roll with it tomorrow? I won't tell you what I'm going to say. I won't think about what I'm going to say. We'll see where it goes. He's like, that's great. So the fair notice to the folks here that you don't really know what's coming. Just give us a brief synopsis of the project you're working on right now in the Black Hills. I know this isn't on point, but these folks would love to hear that, I think. What are you doing right now?
Well, so we have a project. It happens to be just for the largest private landowner in the Dakotas, North-South Dakota. It's amazing, beautiful country, the Black Hills. And the unique thing about the project is it really is, it's a family operation that basically does not need to make any money doing this. I mean, they've got thousands of acres. They've got 50 years of mining operations, and the project is really about this legacy to this man that they all honor and love and respect, which was their late dad. And really the one thing about him that he passed on to them, he actually had every one of his kids serve time as Senate interns, and just it passed on this love of our country, and just again this unique fertile soil that God's blessed his family, him, to thrive in from the Great Depression with nothing to being in this unique position that the family's in of stewarding some of the most beautiful land in the country. And essentially, these kids are just trying to honor that legacy and do something that's not only you hear blessing to a community, they're talking about a blessing to an entire region, and a region of really lots of different kinds of people. I mean, you have a lot of Native Americans, Sioux, tribal members that are on reservations in some pretty impoverished conditions. You have, again, ranchers and miners and Gen X. I mean, you got just this whole mixed bag of people, and literally they want to kind of impart this gift, not just of handing land over, but literally doing something that's a gift to America, a gift to the world, by creating this destination that would be this one place that right-wing, left-wing Americans, and frankly, even anti-Americans, from around the world would have on their checklist to have to see. It happens to be one of the sites that has a direct view of Mount Rushmore, one of the only privately held sites. It would feel like sacred space. You would think it's a national park, Indian ground, and just because of, again, the family's long-term standing, been asked to join them in stewarding this land, which is just an amazing opportunity. So we're literally in this blue sky session that we were able to, a similar process that we were able to do with you a few years back, of just dreaming. And, really for me, it all boils down to the Lord's Prayer of, humbly seeking God's will, because it's one thing as a master planner, an architect, Imagineer, designer to just come up with an elegant master plan solution, a technical plan that works and hits all the business metrics and finds the highest and best use of any piece of dirt. That's a completely different thing than humbly trying to steward a piece of the Garden of Eden that God's put us in, and trying to maximize kingdom return on investment, and at the end of the day, really just seeking God's will on earth as it is in heaven, because the King never gave up ownership or authorship, as we know, right? Yeah. He's been given us some stewardship, and to literally look at this land and say, what could God's good, acceptable, and perfect will be, like Romans 12:2 talks about. Yeah. It's kind of a humbling and honoring thing that, to be given that responsibility. And again, I felt so strongly yesterday when we were on site, looking down from the top of the hill over the roof of the chapel and towards the rivers and the confluence. That just really resonated to me. That it felt like bringing this beautiful garden again into something that gives us a very tangible taste of the city of heaven. And so to not only see it come into being, but then to also continue the dream of the next level, in the next phase. How exciting! This is amazing, totally. Epic weekend.
So, in light of the context of this morning, as followers of Jesus, charged with stewarding our life, taking what He's given us and leveraging it for the kingdom. Talk a little bit. I'm just going to throw you a curveball here. Talk a little bit about the role of the church. And I think as Western civilization, we get truth, at least in terms of conceptually. Whether it's our own truth or Christians, God's truth. We get goodness. Talk to us about the role of beauty. So truth, goodness, beauty. The church is called to preach the truth, to stand for the truth, to embody the truth. And I was telling you, I think we respond to the truth because it's good. But then what's the church's role in relationship to beauty and how that plays a part of us stewarding what God's called us to steward, being faithful to the King and demonstrating what the kingdom is really like. And maybe not individually, but collectively. What do you see as the church's role in relationship to not just truth, goodness, but beauty?
Yeah, for those of you, from Plato on, there's been this kind of idea of these universal, kind of self-evident truths, if you will, that are kind of foundations of, and truth, goodness, and beauty are kind of three of these things that, generally speaking, humans have kind of regarded that, hey, there is some universals to the idea that there could be a universal truth, a universal beauty. I mean, we know a horrible sounding sound when we hear it, like even if we don't know the technical language to describe that. We know horrible experiences, environments. There's a big difference between the Las Vegas Strip and Disney World, and some of us don't really have the reason because face value, there's a lot of similarities, kind of artificial, contrived themes, but they're just somehow one feels closer to heaven, one feels closer to hell. You can decide which one that works for you, I'll cast my vote. But,
one feels cheap. One feels authentic.
But, and for years, the church, has been focused on, especially the American church, has been focused on shoring up truth. There was a great Russian poet that basically spent a lot of time in prison, but he was one of the guys that really led the Russian Revolution just through the power of poetry. And the power of art and poetry, using words. And he had this amazing line, I thought, that basically had this image of truth, beauty, and goodness kind of coming like a roots of a tree cropping up. And it was kind of like the parable from last week, the seeds in the fertile soil. But basically he's like, hey, truth sometimes gets trampled out. I mean, all you have to do is go on Facebook these days and understand that, hey, truth is under fire, right? Like the relativism and, political divisiveness and different perspectives. So truth, especially in today's day and age, is kind of under fire. Goodness, ethics, right? The idea of universal goods. I mean, morality, again, under fire. Basically, his line was sometimes beauty can crop up as the strongest, trunk and carry the day and do the heavy lifting, basically, when truth and goodness are kind of under fire. And I think that's so powerful. I've just seen that. I don't know. I don't want to be divisive or anything, but I've experienced that. Something like a U2 concert. 100,000 people, not probably not nearly a lot of people there would consciously yet say that they know the King of Kings personally. But to have 100,000 people singing Amazing Grace, taking an offering for the poor, being made aware of entire movements, from social justice to creation care. I mean, it's a powerful taste of the kingdom. Totally unrelated. Walt Disney, this kid, no college education, could barely really talk right with this thick Midwestern drawl. Really couldn't draw all that well, But again, to risk everything over and over and over again when it came down to kind of realizing the 20-year dream. Even after he was a Hollywood mogul, he was willing to sell his home, cash out his insurance policy, do whatever he could to beg, borrow, and steal the best talent he could find to cast this vision for this place that, a daddy could make some memories with his daughters, and that became Disneyland. And again, just would never take the minus and bury it. It was constantly, and I think that's, the role of the church to me. There's a powerful role of, there was a time that the church really held up beauty. Yeah. And unfortunately, in a lot of times today, it's easy for us to think of art and beauty. Take Christian music, for example. Yeah. Okay, well, when I was a kid, I could go into a Christian music store, and they had the cassette tapes, and hey, if you like, if you like Pearl Jam, then hey, listen to Third Day, exactly. Or I got that.
I went to that
hillbilly voice, So it was kind of this easy analog. And really, a friend of mine's a Christian recording artist. Well, he used to be a Christian. Now he's just a recording artist who loves Jesus. Yeah. And he learned that, man, if you want to sell in the Nashville gospel music market, your core audience is not the lost. It's the Christian soccer mom that wants to give something safe for her kids to listen to. Mm-hmm. And that looks different than someone that's changing culture and changing the world and really reaching the lost and just creating beauty and truth. Yeah. And so in his mind, he's like, forget that. I'm going to do what I'm wired to do and express beauty and truth. And so, again, my actual background before Disney was actually a film. And I thought, hey, it'd be really cool to do Christian movies, and aim higher than Kirk Cameron movies at the day. Yeah. And today we're actually, we're partnering with Lions. I mean, I love those, but still the idea that movies are only good if they affect ethics, right? If they help us, if they have a function to it, And that's the same thing with before Disney, before Disneyland, there was a big movement in the creation of communities in urban environments and homes of form follows function. Mm-hmm. That we should forget about beauty and story and just put rain over our heads. And that's affected and infected the church in America when it comes to stewarding physical resources, buildings. It's like, well, let's just be as cheap as humanly possible. Spend. We'll just get her done. Budget scopes, good, fast, and cheap, and essentially it's this necessary evil. Like we don't want to put money and time in bricks and mortar because we're just keeping our reins off our heads. Basically, we're building bomb shelters for Jesus. Just get in, get out. Jesus is going to come and he's going to torch everything anyways and evac us the heck out of here. There's some really bad dispensational theology and eschatology, which that's your job. But what I've learned is that's one of the reasons that churches in America are so dang ugly. And again, there are these institutional places that you want to spend as little time in as possible. Right. Other institutional architecture, insane asylums, prisons, schools. That's what institutions are.
Wow.
Right?
Insane asylums, schools, prisons,
that's exactly not what where people want to come to get a taste of heaven and dwell and linger. And again, that's just a different take on stewardship. That's a different look at ROI. Again, just spending as little as humanly possible, not spending any extra time to create beauty or understanding that spaces have always told stories. And again, that's something that I think is directly related to churches. But again, the same thing. A guy like Walt Disney sitting in the pew that has all these amazing talents, resources, and time. If a church is solely focused on, hey, I need to help you cross that line of truth, get to that point where you're buying the fire insurance I'm selling and getting your name written in the book of life, that's great. But there's a lot more to be done past that point, my friend. Right? There are things that you've been given stewardship over that you are called and wired to risk and to get a ROI. And again, sometimes I have the blessing of being able to do the kingdom work, but we love the fact that we get to do, serve companies and causes and to create these places that, are tangible places that people, we call them destinations that lift the spirit, both now and forever. So places that, I was able to be blessed to hang with your family at Disneyland, to be able to make those memories that don't have an expiration date, that regardless of the price tag, they do last for eternity. And they give people a tangible taste of the kingdom, of heaven on earth, the world as it could and should be. It's a pretty powerful thing. And again, to create beauty for beauty's sake, that's kind of a cool thing. So one of the things we're blessed to do is we actually have a partnership with Lionsgate Entertainment and the Irwin brothers, the guys that produced I Can Only Imagine, again, to just launch the bar in terms of life-giving narrative and story in both films and then in physical environments. And again, to me, it's so much more than just having someone get out of a pew and maybe, okay, I'm going to serve in a parking lot, which is all important, and producing the Sunday experience is all important. But again, to help that guy understand, hey, what you do with your business, with your family, your life, all this stuff has eternal ripples and impacts. And it's been a powerful thing.
So last question, give you the last word. When you think about the opportunity before us, we're in the middle of this project, you've been helping us dream, think this out. What kind of opportunity do you think we have, or responsibility we have as a church to faithfully steward what God's given us? And how have you seen, or are you seeing spaces that are created for a community to be blessed, changing the culture, changing the story, changing community? I mean, encourage, inspire, give perspective on this, because you do this all over the world. This is our first time. How does this impact people?
Yeah, one of the things that struck me, just as we were going through the parable, the idea that the reward was essentially giving his servant stewardship over cities and communities. And what a powerful thing, again, I feel like you've been given that reward already, even though you're basically a homeless church. No offense. You're so much more already, so much more impactful than, so many thousands of churches around the world that are frankly squandering the physical resources that they've been giving, and squandering the opportunity to bless, serve, and steward their communities, their cities. And again, the opportunity to have a property of the critical mass that you have at such a key location in your city, and then to do so much more than just open it up for an hour a week or a few hours a week, and then have it locked and empty parking lots all day the rest of the week. But to have this place that, again, doesn't just function as that holy temple on the high hill that people have to, fearfully, ascend to and try to kind of get a taste of the presence of God. The fact that you've proudly taken the shovel that God handed you to dig that Jacob's well of today, to dig that watering hole that is, I think of it as that postmodern well that Samaritan woman of today that's so far from God that would never even think that she would be invited to, again, that holy hill, but where she would feel completely comfortable pulling in, having a cup of coffee, letting her kids play in a playground, having a life-giving human conversation with just someone that would look at her not as this piece of whatever, but see in her eyes the face of Jesus, see that she's a daughter of the King, and give her that respect and dignity. Let her hear those words of eternal life for the first time in her life, and taste that living water. That you would do that you would sacrificially give and create that. Is so powerful to me, and again, the ripple impacts of what that means to have that place in your city that I firmly believe is going to be one of those go-to spots. Like I was saying, part of my dream is, if you have that brother-in-law, that I have one of my sons that wants to move up to the Northwest, to have that place that, like, okay, you just gotta come and see, and that it would be a place that they would be drawn towards, and being one of the highlights of a place that you'd want to experience, kind of the unique, special sense of place and the soil-specific context that you're in. So, anyways, I can't wait to hear eternal, life-changing stories coming out of this, this piece of dirt. I think it's going to be some fertile soil.
Yeah. I asked Emil yesterday. I said, "What's your win? What's the highlight? You fly all over the country, work, brainstorm, dream, till you're just dog tired." And he said, "When I get to hear stories of people who encounter Jesus because of the work we do, that's the touchdown, that's the end game." So, and for those of you who don't know Mel's story, we came to Mel kind of behind the eight ball. We're not in the hole, but we'd gone down a road with one firm that wasn't working, and we're kind of stuck and frustrated. This was almost 3 years ago now. And a conversation in Disneyland in a restaurant, hotel that Mel actually designed. He said, "Well, we contract with these Lionsgates and Star Wars and all these big things so we can do things like this that we're passionate about. So Mel helped us come in, donated a large portion of both their time and price point to get us back on track. We came back in ahead of schedule, under budget, because of Mel's organization and his gift. And so, Mel, thank you for...
So great to know you guys. Love you guys.
Yeah.
We love you guys.
Yeah. Yep. So we're really grateful for you as a church family and your gift of a vision for us and a dream with somebody who has a similar heart for not only preaching the truth and demonstrating the goodness of it, but also building places of beauty where people can see the truth of God's beauty on display. So we're grateful for that, and we're grateful for you, and that you're part of our family. And so can you just thank Mel one last time? Tell him thank you for what you're doing. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You're killing me.
Come on, tell him thanks. Get on me, buddy.